The autumn rain hammered against the windows of the Silver Creek ranch house like bullets from heaven, each drop carrying the weight of a season ending and a harsh winter beginning. Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the cold glass, watching the muddy road that wound through the valley, waiting for a miracle that seemed less likely with each passing hour. Behind her, 3-year-old Maria whimpered softly in her sleep, curled up on the worn sofa with a fever that had been burning for 2 days. 8-year-old Diego sat at the kitchen table, his dark eyes too old for his young face as he tried to work on his letters by candlelight. Around her shoulders and turned away from the window, no one was coming. Not her brother Carlos, who had promised to send money from California but hadn't written in months. Not the bank in town, which had already made it clear that widow women with half-Mexican children weren't welcome to extend their loans. And certainly not her late husband's family, who had made their feelings about his marriage to a Mexican woman abundantly clear at his funeral 6 months ago. "Mama," Diego whispered, not looking up from his paper. "Are we going to lose the house?" Elena's heart clenched. Her son was too young to carry such worries, but poverty had a way of aging children before their time. She moved to the table and smoothed his dark hair, so like his father's. "We're going to figure something out, mijo," she said softly. "We always do." But even as she said the words, Elena knew they were running out of options. The ranch was small, barely profitable even when Robert was alive to work it. She'd tried to keep it running on her own. But between caring for 2 young children and lacking the physical strength for the heavier work, she'd fallen further and further behind. The cattle had been sold off, one by one, to pay for medicine and food. The vegetable garden had failed in the early frost. Now the bank was coming tomorrow to take the house. A sudden pounding at the front door made them all jump. Elena's hand instinctively went to the rifle mounted above the fireplace. Woman alone with children had to be careful, especially in these remote parts. But when she peered through the window beside the door, her breath caught in her throat. Standing on her porch, water streaming from his black hat and coat, was Marcus Kane, the man who owned the largest ranch in the valley. The man whose cold blue eyes had never once looked at her with anything but contempt. The man who had made it clear that he considered her presence in the community an unfortunate complication. Elena's fingers trembled as she unlatched the door. "Mr. Kane, this is ... unexpected." He swept off his hat, revealing hair as dark as a winter night and eyes that seemed to hold storms of their own. Water dripped from his coat onto her threshold as he studied her face with an intensity that made her want to look away. "Mrs. Vasquez, may I come in?" Elena stepped back, acutely aware of the humble state of her home. The furniture was worn and patched, the walls bare of decoration save for a single photograph of her wedding day. She watched as Marcus Kane's gaze swept over the meager surroundings, taking in Diego at his schoolwork and little Maria sleeping fitfully on the couch. "What can I do for you, Mr. Kane?" Lena asked, wrapping her arms around herself. She knew why he was here. Everyone in town knew about her financial troubles. He'd probably come to make an offer on her land, pennies on the dollar, no doubt. Taking advantage of her desperation. "I came to make you a proposition," he said quietly, his voice carrying the authority of a man used to being obeyed. "I understand you're facing some difficulties. If you're here to buy my land cheap, you're wasting your time," Elena said, lifting her chin with pride she didn't feel. Something flickered in Marcus's eyes, surprise, maybe, or something that looked almost like respect. "That's not why I'm here." "Then what?" "Marry me." The words fell between them like stones into still water, creating ripples of shock that seemed to fill the small room. Elena stared at him, certain she'd misheard. "I beg your pardon? I'm asking you to marry me, Mrs. Vasquez? Tonight, if possible?" Elena felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "Mr. Kane, I think the rain has affected your judgment. You can't be serious." "I'm quite serious." He moved closer, and she caught the scent of leather and rain and something else, something warm and masculine. That made her pulse quicken despite herself. "You need security for yourself and your children." "I need," paused, and for a moment the controlled mask he always wore seemed to slip, revealing something raw and vulnerable underneath. "I need a family," he finished quietly. "You don't even know me," Alina protested, her mind reeling. You've barely spoken to me in the year since Robert died. When we pass on the street, you look right through me like I'm not even there. I notice you, Marcus said, his voice so low she had to strain to hear it. I notice everything about you, Alina. The use of her first name sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with the cold. There was something in the way he said it, like a prayer or a confession. This is madness, she whispered. Is it you're about to lose your home? And what do you get out of this arrangement? Because I can't believe it's my sparkling personality that's suddenly caught your attention. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You might be surprised. Mr. Kane Marcus. If we're to be married, you should call me Marcus. We're not getting married. Elena's voice rose, causing Diego to look up from his letters with wide eyes. She lowered her voice, acutely aware of her children listening. This is insane. You can't just walk into someone's house and propose marriage like you're discussing the weather, can't I? His blue eyes held hers steadily. Letting pride stand in the way of your children's welfare. Alina felt heat rise in her cheeks. Don't you dare lecture me about my children's welfare. Everything I've done, every sacrifice I've made has been for them. I know. His voice was gentle now, almost tender. I've watched you struggle these past months, Alina. I've seen you go without food to make sure they had enough. I've seen you work until you could barely stand, trying to keep this place running. You're a remarkable woman. Then why have you never so much as tipped your hat? To me in town? The question seemed to hit him like a physical blow. He turned away, staring out the rain-lashed window. He faced her again, and she was startled to see pain etched in every line of his face. 'Cause every time I look at you, I remember what I've lost. Every time I see you with your children, I think about the family I'll never have, and it hurts too much to bear. Lena felt her anger wavering, replaced by something she didn't want to name. Mr. Kane. Marcus, ... I don't understand. I was married once, he said quietly. Her name was Catherine. She was beautiful and kind and everything a man could want in a wife. We were married for 3 years, and in all that time, she never conceived. The doctors said. They said it was my fault that I would never father children. Elena's breath caught. She'd heard whispers in town about Marcus Kane's first wife, how she died young, but no one had ever mentioned the deeper tragedy. Catherine died of influenza 5 years ago, he continued, his voice steady but hollow. After she was gone, I accepted that I would live the rest of my life alone, that I would never know the joy of holding my own child or hearing little voices in my house. I built walls around my heart and told myself it was better that way. You just said you need a family, Alina said softly. I do. When I see you with Diego and Maria, when I watch the way you love them, protect them. It makes me remember what it feels like to want something more than just existing. Alina felt tears prick her eyes. Marcus. ... I'm offering you a marriage of convenience, he said, his voice becoming businesslike again. You would have financial security, a good home for your children, and the protection of my name. In return, I would have the family I've always wanted, even if they're not of my blood. And what about love? The question slipped out before Alina could stop it. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Love is a luxury neither of us can afford right now, perhaps in time. But for now, mutual respect and shared purpose would be enough. Alina turned away, her mind churning. It was a practical solution to her problems, she had to admit. Marcus. Kane was one of the wealthiest men in the territory. Her children would want for nothing. They would have opportunities she could never provide on her own. But marriage without love... ... I need time to think, she said. There is no time. His voice was gentle but implacable. The bank comes tomorrow. By evening, you and your children will be on the street. Then I'll take them to my brother in California. Somehow. With what money? Alina, be reasonable. You have 50 cents to your name and 2 sick children. It wouldn't make it 50 miles. The brutal truth of his words hit her like a slap. She sank into a chair at the kitchen table, putting her head in her hands. He was right. She was trapped, with no good choices left. If I agreed, she said without looking up, what would you expect from me? I would expect you to be a mother to Diego and Maria, which you already are. I would expect you to manage my household, entertain guests when necessary, present a united front with me in all matters concerning the children. And other wifely duties, she heard him draw in a sharp breath. Only if and when you choose. I won't force myself on you, Elena. Whatever happens between us will be your choice. Slowly, Elena raised her head to look at him. Marcus Kane stood. In her humble kitchen, like a dark angel, offering salvation at a price she wasn't sure she could pay. But when she glanced at Diego, still bent over his letters, and at Maria, flushed with fever on the couch, she knew there was really only one choice. My children, she said quietly. They would be treated as your own, not as charity cases or obligations. They would be my children in every way that matters, Marcus said fiercely. Anyone who treated them with anything less than complete respect would answer to me. Elena stood slowly, smoothing her worn skirt with hands that trembled. Slightly. If we do this, if I agree to marry you. I want your word that you'll never remind me that you saved us, that you'll never hold this arrangement over my head or make me feel beholden. You have my word. I want the right to leave if I'm unhappy, to take my children and go with enough money to start over somewhere else. Marcus flinched, as if she'd struck him, but he nodded. If that's what you want, yes. Lena looked around her small home one more time, memorizing the place, where she'd been happy with Robert, where her children had been born. Then she squared her shoulders and met Marcus's gaze. Very well, I accept your proposal. Relief flooded his face so completely that Elena realized he'd been far from certain of her answer. The preacher will have to wait until morning. Won't drag my sick daughter out in this storm, and I won't leave her here alone, of course. But Elena, there's something else we need to discuss. What now? Marcus looked uncomfortable, running his hand through his dark hair. My housekeeper, Mrs. Morrison, has been with me for years. She's set in her ways. She may not welcome the idea of another woman running the household. I see. And you think I should just accept whatever treatment she decides to dish out? No, Marcus said quickly. You'll be mistress of the house, and she'll answer to you. I just wanted to warn you that the transition might not be smooth. Lena almost smiled. After months of poverty and worry, dealing with a difficult housekeeper seemed like a minor problem. I can handle Mrs. Morrison. I'm sure you can. Marcus moved toward the door, then paused. Elena, I want you to know that I don't take this lightly. Marriage is sacred, even a practical one like ours. I'll do everything in my power to be a good husband to you and a good father to Diego and Maria. And I'll try to be a good wife, Elena replied, though the words felt strange on her tongue. After Marcus left, Elena sat by the fire and tried to process what had just happened. In the space of an hour, her entire life had changed. Tomorrow, she would become Mrs. Marcus Kane, mistress of the largest ranch in the valley. Her children would have full bellies and warm beds, and a future she'd thought was lost forever. So, why did she feel like she was making the biggest mistake of her life? Mama. Diego appeared at her side, his dark eyes serious. Is that man going to be our new papa? Lena pulled her son onto her lap, breathing in the familiar scent of his hair. How would you feel about that, mijo? Diego considered this carefully. He seems nice, and he has a big house. I saw it when we went to town. Maria would like having her own room. Yes, she would. Did you love him like you loved Papa Robert? The innocent question hit Elena like a blow. Love is complicated, Diego. Sometimes people get married for different reasons. But you're sad, Diego observed, with the painful clarity of childhood. Why are you sad if he's going to help us? Elena hugged her son tighter, unable to explain that she was mourning the death of dreams she'd barely acknowledged having. Dreams of finding love again someday, of choosing her own path, not being dependent on anyone else's charity, even charity disguised as marriage. Sometimes happy changes can feel sad too, she said finally. But we're going to be all right, Diego, all of us. The next morning dawned gray and cold, the rain having given way to a bitter wind that rattled the windows. Elena dressed carefully in her one good dress, black wool, that had seen better days, but was still respectable. She braided her long hair and pinned it up, then woke the children. Maria's fever had broken in the night. and she sat up eagerly when Elena explained they were going to live in the big house with the nice man. "Will there be horses?" Maria asked, her eyes bright with excitement. "Yes, Paquega. Lots of horses." Diego was quieter, helping his little sister dress while Elena packed their few belongings. Everything they owned fit into 2 carpet bags, and a wooden crate, a pitiful accumulation for a family. But all they had left. Marcus arrived precisely at 10 o'clock, driving a covered wagon to protect them from the weather. He'd brought warm blankets and hot bricks wrapped in cloth to keep their feet warm during the ride to town. Elena found herself touched by these small considerations. The wedding ceremony at the small church was brief and businesslike. The elderly preacher seemed surprised by the sudden union, but asked no uncomfortable questions. Diego and Maria stood beside Elena, wide-eyed and solemn, while Marcus's foreman, Tom Bradley, served as witness. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus's kiss was brief and gentle, barely more than a brush of lips. But Elena felt something stir in her chest at the touch, something she quickly pushed down. The ride to the Kane Ranch took an hour through rolling hills dotted with cattle. Elena had seen the house from a distance before, but up close it was even more impressive. Built of local stone with a wide porch and tall windows, spoke of prosperity and permanence. Mrs. Morrison met them at the front door. Her gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, and her mouth set in a disapproving line. She was a thin woman of perhaps 60, with sharp eyes that took in Elena's worn dress and mixed-race children with obvious distaste. "Mrs. Morrison," Marcus said formally, "I'd like you to meet my wife Elena and her children, Diego and Maria, your wife." Mrs. Morrison's tone made it clear what she thought of the arrangement. "I see." Elena felt her back stiffen. She might be desperate, but she wouldn't be treated like hired help in her own home. "Mrs. Morrison, I look forward to working with you to manage the household efficiently." The older woman's eyebrows rose at Elena's confident tone. "Indeed, and I suppose you'll be wanting to change everything about the way this house has been run for the past 15 years? "Only if changes need to be made," Elena replied evenly. "I'm sure you've done an excellent job. I simply want to understand how things work so I can fulfill my role as mistress of the house." Marcus watched this exchange with interest, and Elena caught what might have been approval in his blue eyes. "Tom will help you move Mrs. Vasquez's things to the master bedroom," Marcus told his foreman. "Oh no," Elena said quickly, color rising in her cheeks. "I couldn't. That is, I thought I would take one of the guest rooms. Or perhaps there's space in the servants' quarters." "You're my wife," Marcus said firmly. "You'll sleep in the master bedroom, but we're not. This isn't a real marriage in that sense." "I couldn't possibly, Elena." His voice was gentle, but implacable. "You will sleep next to me or not at all. I won't have my wife relegated to the servants' quarters like a shameful secret. What would Diego and Maria think? What would the neighbors say?" Elena felt trapped between propriety and practicality. She was right, appearances mattered, especially in a small community where gossip traveled faster than wildfire. But the thought of sharing a bed with this virtual stranger made her stomach flutter with nervousness. "I very well. But I think it would be best if we maintained certain boundaries." "Whatever boundaries you need," Marcus agreed quietly. The rest of the day passed in a blur of introductions and explanations. Lena met the ranch hands, toured the house, and tried to understand the complex workings of such a large operation. Diego was fascinated by everything, especially the horses. While Maria claimed immediate ownership of a large tabby cat that had adopted the kitchen that evening, Lena found herself standing in the doorway of the master bedroom, carpet bag in, hand and heart hammering in her chest. The room was masculine and comfortable, dominated by a large 4-poster bed that seemed to take up half the space. Marcus appeared behind her, carrying his own few belongings. "I can sleep in the chair if you'd prefer," he offered quietly. Elena looked at the straight-backed wooden chair by the window and shook her head. "Don't be ridiculous. You'd be crippled by morning. The bed is large enough for both of us to maintain our boundaries." They prepared for bed in awkward silence, Elena changing in the adjoining dressing room while Marcus did the same in the bedroom. When she emerged in her worn cotton nightgown, she found him already in bed, wearing a simple nightshirt and keeping Carefully to his side, Alina slipped under the covers on the opposite side, acutely aware of his presence. The bed was indeed large, but she could still feel the warmth radiating from his body, could hear his careful breathing. "Alina," he said quietly in the darkness, "I want you to know, this doesn't have to be difficult. We can make this work. If we're honest with each other." "I know," she whispered back. "It's just... strange. Being here with you. Strange for me, too. It's been a long time since I shared a bed with anyone." They lay in silence for a while, and Alina began to relax slightly. But just as she was drifting off to sleep, Maria's frightened cry echoed from down the hall. Alina started to rise, but Marcus was already out of bed. "I'll go," he said simply. Alina followed him down the hall to the small bedroom they'd prepared for Maria. The little girl was sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, I had a bad dream." Lena rushed to comfort her daughter, but to her surprise, Marcus knelt beside the bed as well. "What was the dream about, Pequiga?" he asked gently, using the Spanish endearment Alina had taught him earlier. "There were wolves," Maria sobbed. "Big, scary wolves, and they were trying to get in the house." Well, Marcus said seriously, "It's a good thing this house has very strong doors and windows. And you know what else?" Maria shook her head, hiccuping. "Have the best ranch dogs in the territory. They patrol all around the house at night, and they would never let any wolves get close. You're completely safe here, really. And if you have another bad dream, you can call for your mama or for me, and one of us will come right away." Maria smiled through her tears. "You'd come if I called?" "Of course I would. That's what papas do." Lena felt her heart clench at the easy way he claimed the role, at the gentleness in his voice. This was not the cold, distant man she'd thought she was marrying. After they'd tucked Maria back into bed, Alina and Marcus walked back to their room together. "Thank you," Alina said, quietly, "for being so kind to her. She's a sweet child. They both are. Marcus, about what you said to her, about being their papa. Are you sure you're ready for that?" He stopped in the hallway, turning to face her. In the dim light from the oil lamp, his features looked softer, more vulnerable. "Wanted to be a father for as long as I can remember," he said quietly. "If Diego and Maria will have me, there's nothing I want more." Alina searched his face, looking for any sign of insincerity. All she saw was hope, fragile and carefully, guarded but unmistakable. "They will," she said softly. "They need a father, and you'll be good to them. I'll try to be worthy of their trust. And yours." Something shifted in Elena's chest, a wall she'd built around her heart developing its first crack. This marriage might have started as a business arrangement, but Marcus Kane was not the cold man she'd thought he was. Over the following weeks, Lena settled into her new life with surprising ease. The household ran smoothly under her management, Mrs. Morrison gradually thawing as she realized Alina had no intention of displacing her entirely. Diego thrived under Marcus's patient guidance, learning to ride and rope and handle himself around the ranch. Maria bloomed like a flower in spring, her laughter ringing through the house as she followed the ranch hands around, asking endless questions and Alina ... Alina found herself watching her husband with growing confusion and something that might have been attraction. Marcus was unfailingly gentle with the children, never impatient with their questions or too busy to help with their problems. He taught Diego to whittle and read to Maria every night before bed. He brought Alina wildflowers from the meadow and asked her opinion on ranch business. He treated her with a respect and consideration that Robert, for all his love, had never quite managed. But it was the little things that began to matter most. The way Marcus always made sure she had the best piece of meat at dinner. How he rose early to stoke the fire so she wouldn't wake to a cold house. The way he listened when she talked about her dreams for the children's future, nodding thoughtfully and making suggestions that showed he'd really heard her. 3 weeks into their marriage, Lena realized she was falling in love with her husband. Revelation hit her one evening as she watched Marcus teaching Diego to play chess in the parlor while Maria dozed against his shoulder, completely trusting and content. The sight filled her with such warmth and longing that she had to step outside onto the porch to catch her breath. The This wasn't supposed to happen.
Ow.
This marriage was supposed to be practical, convenient, safe. She wasn't supposed to develop feelings. For a man who had married her out of loneliness and a desire for children, a man who might never see her as anything more than a convenient solution to his problems. Alina. Marcus appeared in the doorway behind her. Are you all right? She turned, pasting a smile on her face. Just getting some air. It's a beautiful evening. Marcus joined her at the porch rail, his presence both comforting and disturbing. The children are asleep. Diego fell asleep over the chessboard. He's been so happy here, Alina said softly. They both have. You've been wonderful with them, Marcus. It's better than I ever hoped. They make it easy. They're remarkable children. Alina, you should be proud. I am. She paused, then added quietly, Robert would have been proud too, of who they're becoming. Marcus was silent for a moment. Do you miss him? Your first husband? Elena considered the question carefully. I miss what we had. We were young when we married. And it was ... uncomplicated. Simple. We loved each other without reservation, without fear. And now? She looked at him, this man who had become such an integral part of her life in such a short time. Now nothing. Seems simple, Alina. Marcus moved closer, and she could smell the scent of soap and leather that clung to him. I need to tell you something. Her heart began to race. What? This arrangement, ... It's not working. Alina felt the world drop. Out from under her, it was going to end their marriage. He'd grown tired of the complications of her and the children. She'd let herself hope for too much. I see, she managed, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. When Marcus kissed her, it was nothing like the brief, formal kiss at their wedding. This kiss was full of promise and passion and all the love they'd been holding back. Alina melted into his arms, finally allowing herself to believe that she could have love again, could have a future that was more than just survival. I have something for you, Marcus said when they finally broke apart. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Elena's breath caught as he opened it, revealing a beautiful ring with a single perfect sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. It was my mother's, Marcus said quietly. I've been carrying it around for weeks, hoping ... Will you wear it? Alina held out her trembling hand, and Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger beside the simple gold band he'd given her at their wedding. It's beautiful, she whispered. Not nearly as beautiful as you. They stood there on the porch, holding each other under the vast canopy of stars. And Alina felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Complete and perfect contentment. Marcus. Yes. When you said our arrangement wasn't working. He chuckled, the sound rumbling through his chest where her head rested. I meant that I couldn't maintain the boundaries anymore. I wanted to really be your husband in every way. Alina pulled back to look at him, seeing the heat in his blue eyes. And if I said I wanted the same thing, Marcaz's grip on her tightened, then I'd say we should go inside. Together. Together, Alina agreed, her heart full of love and hope, and the promise of a future she'd never dared to dream. As they walked into the house, Alina caught sight of Diego peeking around the corner, grinning from ear to ear. Were you spying on us, young man? She asked, trying to sound stern. Maybe a little, Diego admitted with a sheepish smile. Does this mean Marcus is really going to be our papa now? Like forever? Forever, Marcus confirmed, ruffling the boy's hair, if that's all right with you. It's more than all right, Diego said happily. I've been hoping you'd fall in love with Mama. She's been sad for too long. Not anymore, Alina said softly, taking her husband's hand. Not anymore. 6 months later, Alina stood in the doorway of the nursery, watching Marcus rock their newborn son to sleep. Little Robert Marcus Kane, named for her first husband and her second. Honoring both the love she'd lost and the love she'd found, dozed peacefully in his papa's strong arms. The doctors were wrong, Alina said softly, moving to stand beside the rocking chair. Marcus looked up at her with wonder still shining in his eyes. Completely wrong. Maybe it just took the right woman to make it happen. Or maybe, Alina said, settling onto the arm of the chair and stroking her son's downy head, love really can create miracles. I believe it can, Marcus said, pressing a kiss to her temple. After all, it brought us together. Through the window, Alina could see Diego teaching Maria to rope a fence post in the yard, both of them laughing as her lasso went wide for the 100th time. The sound of their joy filled the house like music. Do you ever regret it, Marcus?